To pipe these buttercream flowers, I'll be using a piping nail as well as some parchment squares. You can either buy these pre-cut or cut them yourself. For some of the flowers, I will be using a number 1 small round tip for the center, but the main tip for piping these flowers is the number 101 petal tip. And of course, you will also need some buttercream. To pipe a marigold, begin by attaching a square of parchment to a flower nail. With the narrow end facing out and the wide end at the center, apply pressure and spin your piping nail to form a disc in the center. Place the wide end of the tip in the center of the disc with the narrow end facing out and apply pressure and pull out while turning, and then pull back to your starting point to form small petals. You will notice that I am tucking my tip behind the previous petal to create a nice overlap. Once this row is finished, I'm going to tuck my tip in the center and I'm going to increase my angle slightly and continue piping another row of petals. We want these ones to be slightly shorter so we end up with a nice full marigold flower. For the third row, we're going to again increase the angle of our tip. This is almost 45 degrees and we're going to pipe another row of petals. Add 1 or 2 petals at the top to finish off your marigold flower. And that is our first easy flower using a number 101 tip. To pipe a carnation, begin by applying pressure and piping a disc in the center of your piping nail. Pipe 2 more discs over top. This is important so we get a nice 3D carnation. With the wide end of your tip facing down and the narrow end facing out at about a 45-degree angle, we're going to apply pressure and then move our tip both up and down and back and forth while spinning to create a nice irregular ruffled shaped petal. For the next row of petals, move your tip underneath that first row. We want this row to be slightly longer, so I'm going to pull out slightly further to create a nice full shape on the second row of petals. For the final row, tuck your tip next to the parchment paper, and again we're going to apply pressure, pull up and down in that irregular motion, and finish off our carnation flower. To pipe a larger carnation flower, pipe 4 discs of buttercream instead of 3, and this will allow you to pipe a 4th row of petals on your buttercream carnation. Attach a square of parchment to a flower nail. The cherry blossom does not need a base. With the wide end of your tip at the center of your flower nail and the narrow end facing out, apply pressure while spinning your flower nail and pulling out. Then pull back towards the center, release pressure, and sharply pull away to form each of these petals. We want to pipe these right next to each other, but they don't need to be overlapping. You'll notice my tip is moving out and back in, but the turning motion is forming these petals. As you pipe your last petal, lift your tip up slightly so you don't run it through the first petal. I'm going to use my number 1 tip and some yellow buttercream to pipe a few small dots in the center to finish off my cherry blossom flower. And if you'd like to know any of the coloring information, I've got it all down in the description box below. That is how you pipe a cherry blossom. To begin your daffodil, pipe a disc in the center of your flower nail, with the narrow end facing in and the wide end facing out near the outer edge of the disc that you have piped. Apply pressure and pull out towards the outer edge while turning. Then pull back to your starting point, release pressure, and pull away. To get the more pointed shape on your daffodil petals, pull straight out, form a point, and then pull straight back in, and that'll give you the pointed shape. We want to pipe these petals next to one another, but not overlapping. And in total, we're going to want to do 6 petals for our daffodil flower. Next, we're going to switch our tip so that the narrow end is facing up and the wide end is near the center of our flower nail. Apply pressure and spin your flower nail to form the cup in the center of the daffodil. I'm going to use my number 1 tip and pipe a small mound of white buttercream into the center. Then I'm going to apply small amounts of pressure and sharply pull up to form nice long stamen for the middle of my daffodil flower. This step is optional, but it really helps add a nice 3D look to the finished buttercream daffodils. If you're curious about the buttercream that I'm using, I have the recipe linked down in the description box below. To pipe your camellia, hold your tip slightly off center and spin your flower nail to create a nice disc with a hole in the center. With the narrow end facing up and the wide end touching the outer edge of the disc, apply pressure, spin your flower nail, and then release. For each of these petals, you're going to want to start on the outer edge of the previous petal, spin, and then pull in slightly as you release, and that's going to help us create a nice 3D look on our Buttercream camellia. We're going to pipe our second row on the inside, and we're going to work in that same motion, so tuck your tip behind and then pull inwards as you release. Continue piping in that spiral motion until you reach the center. Switch to your number 1 tip and add a small dab of yellow buttercream to finish off the center of your camellia flower. And that is how you pipe a Buttercream camellia. If you've enjoyed this flower piping tutorial, I'd appreciate it so much if you would like or subscribe, and I'm going to link a few more tutorials here for you. Thanks so much for watching.